Recharge on this Sunday. I'm Maria LaRosa.
And I'm Chris Warren in for Paul Goodlow. This has been a weekend of some cold weather for sure.
We're feeling it here in Atlanta. Yes. Not to whine, but it has been pretty chilly.
Now you're really feeling it around the Great Lakes.
By the way, more bridges than Venice. There you go, your little tidbit of the day.
What?
Absolutely, yes. Let's give you the snapshot. Obviously, the cold tied to a lot of the big stories that we're going to be talking about for you and getting you ready for today and recharge for the week ahead. Yes, highs still 10 to 15 degrees below average. That's from Pittsburgh to Albany, Burlington. And yeah, you're going to feel it in the morning time too. We'll talk about those morning lows that you'll face tomorrow morning. All right, still plenty of moisture to work with here. So along with the cold, you still have some showers, some of them snow showers. We'll take a look at some of the totals too and those great pictures coming in. Meanwhile, on the flip side, the west, you've got two big stories here actually. The big warm up, 10 to 20 degrees above average, but still talking about heavy rain and that flash flood threat. We'll tackle all of it. But first, Chris, a lot of cold to go.
It's warmer than average, 65 degrees.
That's the sign of things to come, right? But we still have a few chilly mornings, and that's the case across the southeast. The benefit of this cool, dry air coming in is you have these gorgeous clear skies, and the stargazing has been awesome. But you do still have some advisories out, those frost advisories in blue, freeze warnings in pink. Some of them have expired this morning because you got the sun up, and you've been above that sort of critical point. But we are going to see that change up, and you do have that ridge in the center of the country with that dip in the east. That dip in the east has been enough to bring that cold all the way across the south, and it was a chilly night last night. 5 to 15 degrees below average for high temperatures today. And yes, that cold front pushing all the way into Florida. So it's that time of year we're starting to get those fronts to come that far south. So right now you're out the door in Atlanta, 49 degrees, 59 in Tallahassee. You're climbing out of the 30s and into the 40s in Nashville right now. Going through the afternoon, you see those nice warm shades. Not quite warm enough when you compare it to average though. That 65 high in Atlanta is actually almost 10 degrees below the average. And that includes tomorrow morning. So you're at the bus stop in Charlotte, 30s for your low temperatures even on into Tuesday morning. Big story across the lower 48, but another big story that we're following across the Pacific is that typhoon. And we do have...
Oh, good thing they did make it a scary scene, though. If you can imagine looking out here, you're seeing one car being pushed out. Eventually, the driver of that car comes out of the sunroof. And Maria, 58 parts of Interstate 5, major interstate on the West Coast. So much mud. 5
feet deep in some spots is what we were hearing. And we were speaking with California, I believe DOT yesterday, and they said it was enough mud that they had to remove to fill 70,000 dump trucks.
70,000 dump trucks.
Yeah. And that's the task that they have ahead of them, which is a problem. Unfortunately, we still have weather in that area that's not going to make any of this easier. And I have to tell you, Chris, when we were watching this Thursday morning, we had all of that lightning, all that heavy thunderstorm. So I'm concerned about this area in particular. So is the National Weather Service. They've actually, the Storm Prediction Center, putting out kind of like a highlight here.
What's cool about this map right here, Maria, is that you can really see the Central Valley of California and all the farmland, but then it has that rugged appearance. Those are the Sierra Nevada mountains as you go from California here into Nevada, where you're getting a little extra lift, possibly some heavier rain, even some snow possible in some of the higher elevations. But then you get back over here into the deserts, and again, this map does a good job of showing that too. Showing the desert area, the very arid land here, but with the very heavy rain, you can see a lot of runoff.
Right, and you put that in context with the incredible drought that they've had, and so you have this ground, if it hasn't gotten rain already, is basically like concrete. You get a lot of runoff, and then you start to see that mud. So unfortunately, we still have the possibility of the flash flooding, and in this case here too, with heavy rain already falling this morning, you have to be concerned about the rest of the day.
And we know in past El Nino years, this is an El Nino year, that you end up with and can see a lot of heavy rain and a lot of problems in California.
And experts think the very, very sizable, strong El Nino in the Pacific will push strong storms into central and southern California in the coming months.
And NOAA says that probably means a slightly wetter winter, but don't necessarily look for a drought buster, unfortunately, because it is an intense drought in California.
Oh boy, all right. Let's talk with Dr. Peter Glick in Oakland, California, and he's the president of the Pacific Institute and a member of the U.S. National Academy of Sciences. Joining us live via Skype. All right, a slightly wetter winter from El Nino. Does that mean beneficial torrential rains? Are we looking at nuisance, disaster even?
Threats and impacts remain. Let's go to Mark Elliott right now with the latest on this storm.
Topics to the winter. Yeah, we have some winter weather to talk about. And we just recently released the names of this year's list of winter storms. And so we have that on our mind. It's timely.
It is timely, of course. It's to help better communicate, as storms, as they're happening, as we track them across the country. And this is the time of year, too, Maria, when it's a unique time of year when hurricane season overlaps with winter weather. Not the winter season yet, but it overlaps when we do see some winter weather.
All right, so the forecast for the winter coming out, and obviously El Nino is part of it. So what will the impact on winter be, and of course the economics of it? And we want to talk.
Part of the economy is most affected in big winters like that.
Well,
Expert, thanks for your input here. And again, mid-October, it's that time of year. Got to start thinking about it.
Yeah, coming up, look at where we are seeing our first signs of winter and where it's feeling like it.
It's 30 past the hour. Thank you so much for staying with us for more Weekend Recharge and more of this.
I'm Chris Warren. Paul's somewhere else. Not sure where he is right now,
That's right.
but it is cold. So many spots across the country, from the Midwest to here. It's almost wintertime.
Exactly. It feels like it. It's looking like it. But I'm going to talk about, too, where it's definitely not feeling like winter and how that's going to be on the move. All right, so our top three stories, obviously, one of the big ones, of course, in territory and in just how it feels. The cold. We have freeze warnings, frost advisories. A lot of that going to continue in through tomorrow. So get a little moisture in with that cold. And, yeah, we still have to talk about some snow showers still into western PA and western New York State. How much are we going to get over the next few hours? We'll look at that. And more rainfall, unfortunately, in and around the west. And this is significant because we're very concerned about more flash flooding. We'll time this out coming up. But first, more
60s, below average to above average. That's fall for you.
That's the next. And can I give you a high five for a second? Because you made it just to the edge of
Yeah, you see this thing over here?
and didn't fall. That was magnificent.
This is kind of dangerous.
That
You're kind of doing this.
You're a professional. I like it. Yeah. That's hard to do, folks.
It's better to be lucky than good.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. But you deserve a high five
Thank
for
you.
that. Meanwhile, in my big area over here, I can talk about, a little bit of that warm up. You see, getting the red arrows pointing up in the Midwest. So there is going to be that turnaround, but not before a few more chilly mornings. And we're talking Chicago, Detroit, Cincinnati, 33 degrees for tomorrow morning. So those kids at the bus stop definitely going to need the few extra layers. And you may be thinking, this feels a little early because a lot of us had a nice little stretch before this, but we're kind of right on time for that first freeze. What you're looking at, the average first date of that first freeze. So for Chicago and Indianapolis, pretty much right on time, and maybe a little ahead of schedule for places like Cincinnati and St. Louis who have kind of been there. But regardless, that map basically tells you it's that time of year. Now, before we kind of really get entrenched in fall and winter, we've got this big high pressure, this ridge that's building. That's going to move to the east, so that's going to cut short any really lengthy cold snap here. In fact, warm us up pretty nicely here into next week. Remember those highs in the 40s and 50s, Minneapolis and Chicago? Well, we're heading up into the 70s into next week, a good 10 to 20 degrees above average. That's going to feel pretty good. 81 in Rapid City, 78 in Denver. We got mid-70s in Nebraska and Dodge City, getting up into the 80s here for tomorrow. So maybe play a little hooky here and enjoy some of that, because that's going to go away a lot quicker. By midweek, the 70s and 80s reach into the Ohio Valley, Chicago 76, even Minneapolis, that 5 degrees above average gets you into the low 60s. So let's kind of give you that idea, all right? Chicago, 62 is your average this time of year. If I could draw a line, it's right about there. So we spend a good part of next week above average, again, getting a little bit of a break from the bit of a chill here from the Midwest and into the Northeast.
All right, so there's so much going on here in the U.S. as far as the heat. We could say heat, what you're just talking about, right?
Yeah.
Mid-80s this time of year, it's hot, snowflakes, but also we're keeping our eyes on...
Exactly. And Mount Washington Observatory in New Hampshire, by the way, had a wind gust of 51 miles per hour and a wind chill of 22 below zero.
That's up.
I know it's
That's
up,
up,
but it's still kind of fun because you do have still a good amount of cold air coming through.
And it's the top of the mountain. It's usually accessible by their mountain road.
Yeah.
But sometimes if the weather's bad, you're not going to be able to get up that way. So
Right,
you have to check ahead if you're planning
and
to go
if you're
to Mount
manning
Washington.
it, you're stuck up there.
Exactly. Exactly.
But look at Erie, okay? One of those things, we showed those pictures of the snow. They had about 6.5 inches of snow in some places, you know, as much as 5 inches too, because of the bit of snow that we've gotten over the last 24 hours.
Can you believe it? It's already that time of year. We have to be worried about the road conditions here in Pennsylvania and New York. Through the day today, as things warm up, the day, you know, the sun comes out, even if it's filtered through the clouds, it'll still make things a little bit warmer, so more of a mix, not as much of the straight snow.
Yeah, and just to give you an idea, you got I-80 right around here, so there may be some tough travel, or at least a little bit trickier than if the roads were just plain old dry. Maybe as much as 1 to 3 additional inches.
And this is also tricky when you have the leaves falling and the snow, because wet leaves are also extremely slippery as well. So, and to call last winter, if we remember, if you look at what's going on right now, if you call it last winter wild, that'd be a bit of an understatement, wouldn't it?
Yeah, a lot of people are looking at this and going, oh my goodness, the season was definitely one for the record books, or more appropriately, many record books. Sam Champ.